And good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to today, the 6th of October, and it's a wonderful day right here in Brisbane, 22 degrees, and looking out the window, it's just amazing to see that sunshine and just such a beautiful day here in Brisbane. Well, of course, today, this morning, if you were all listening to Australian Indian Radio, you would have noticed the difference in some of the programs that been playing. Well, it is because we're supporting Aukathon.
Hello everyone, Durga Puja is almost round the corner.
And this year, celebrate Durga Puja with us.
To double that up, we have tied up with Australian Indian Radio to broadcast Mohishashur Murdini by Birendra Krishna Bhadra.
Don't forget to tune into Australian Indian Radio on 6th of October at 7 a.m., 12 noon and 4 p.m. Brisbane time. Join us to celebrate the auspicious occasion of Mohalaya.
We are Team Aukathon, Harmony of Generations.
And yes, that was the reason the timings changed on the programs a little bit. So Aukathon, in association with Brisbane Indian Times, presents Mahishasur Mardini Mohalaya by Birendra Krishna Bhadra. And of course, the 7 a.m. The segment went very well. Lots of people tuned in to listen to that. And of course, now we have the next segment coming up at midday. And then the final segment of that will be coming on at 4 p.m. And that is on our online radio. So, if you tune into Australian Indian Radio, you will find that. Well, from tomorrow, Navratri begins. So here's a little treat for you before we begin the news for today. And ladies and gentlemen, there we go. So, of course, looking at the function, Navratri begins from tomorrow, and wishing everyone all the very best. And if you tune into Australian Indian Radio, you'll find out all about that. Kavita ji has done a very wonderful program on the all 9 roops of Mata Durga. Well, right now, let's get to the news segment. And yesterday, the outage of Facebook. My God, it was like the end of the world for many people, wondering what's happening, what are we going to do, where's my WhatsApp, where's my Messenger, where's my Facebook. So, of course, all of these things do happen because we are human.
In a world connected by social media, today's outage caused disruption to hundreds of millions of people.
We think of Facebook largely as a social media site, which can be kind of frivolous or silly, but people use Facebook products as a primary method for reaching their family around the world.
Despite early concerns of a cyber attack, it appears the fault was not sinister, but rather human error, a technology fail that affected the DNS.
So that's the system which translates those domain names, which are easy to remember and type in, into those IP addresses which are used by the computers.
To add insult to injury, the social media giant had to use rival platform Twitter to apologise. tweeting, "To the huge community of people and businesses around the world who depend on us, we're sorry." And while the social blackout spawned endless jokes and memes, there were more serious consequences too. A lot of users rely on services like the encrypted messaging platform WhatsApp to communicate, rather than local phone networks. There were other concerns as well.
We're seeing real Facebook, Instagram, and WhatsApp users calling out on Twitter saying, "I can't get into my account, I'm locked out," not realizing that there is an outage, and scammers are stepping in and saying things like, "Oh, let me help you troubleshoot, I'm customer service." They then step in and steal that person's account.
By afternoon, most Facebook services were back up and running. Michael Slezak, ABC News.
And of course, it is quite easy to say that, we will be fixing things. Right in that report, it was mentioned that many people do rely on Facebook and other things for this very channel that you are watching right now. Could not be possible if it wasn't for this live streaming via Facebook and YouTube. So, of course, we are now trying to get the streaming simultaneously on Facebook, on YouTube, and on Australian Indian Radio, the radio, online radio as well. So we did a test run yesterday that went quite well, and very soon we'll be introducing a new program, and on that we will be lining all the three up together. Well, right now, of course, Dominic Perrott has become the new Premier for Queensland, but some people are not very happy. Let's have a look.
Well, look, firstly, congratulations to him on becoming Premier of New South Wales. It's obviously a great honour and no doubt fulfils a long-term ambition that he has held. But I understand today he has criticised the GST deal, in which Western Australia gets 70 cents back for every dollar we put in. New South Wales gets 96 cents back for every dollar they put in. So clearly the deal is weighted in favour of New South Wales over Western Australia. The New South Wales government have been very poor financial managers. They now have massive deficits and massive debt. They managed COVID very badly, and you can see the consequence, what's happening in New South Wales now. And so instead of looking in the mirror, they look west to blame us for their situation. The reality is, but for our efforts to keep COVID out and keep our industries open, the huge bailouts, $1 billion or so a week going into New South Wales, would not be possible. So rather than attack Western Australia, they should be grateful for what the people of this state have done in order to continue to fund their states. He's been the Treasurer now for however long, but New South Wales' financial performance has been appalling. Obviously, we have managed our finances far better. We handed out our budget recently, $5.8 billion surplus. They've got deficits in the tens of billions of dollars. So clearly, we won't cop any stick from them.
Just to quote him though, can I just quote him though? He says that WA needs to come to the table and hammer out a new deal that's fair for the country. And he's not the only Premier that takes the view that we're taking more than our share.
Yeah, the threat is real. It's a clear and present danger to Western Australia, and there's little appreciation or gratitude for what we are doing for those states by producing the massive revenues the Commonwealth is pouring into those states. So clearly gratitude is in short supply over there, but we'll continue to do what we do, which is keep our industries open, provide that huge support to the eastern states and continue to prop up their economies.
Have you rung to congratulate him on his appointment?
I wouldn't know his number.
Do you think the GST is more under threat with Mr Perrott?
Yes, I do. He's a relatively young man, so I assume he'll be around in the role, although New South Wales premiers turn over pretty quick. But they've got so many I can't keep a track of them. They're like prime ministers. They turn over very quickly. So I assume he'll be around for a while, and clearly his sights are set on undermining our revenue, our GST. Just so you completely understand, when you go to the shops and you spend $10, in New South Wales, they get back 96 cents in GST. In Western Australia, we get back 70 cents in GST. So they are already receiving far more per capita than we receive. Yet they want to further take revenue away from the state that already supports them to a massive degree.
Won't the real danger, though, be because you've got a commitment from Morrison and from Albanese that it will be the review in 2026? That's the danger.
It's a 2025-2026 review, and obviously that will be upon us before we know it. And you know, people like Mr. Perrottet, no doubt, will try to use that and any other mechanisms at his disposal to undermine the deal that Western Australia has. Look, to be frank with you, I'm tired of listening to their whinging. They never stop whinging, and the reality is we have supported them far more than they support us, and they should stop trying to undermine the deal that just gives us 70 cents for every dollar we put in. South Australia gets around $1.50. Tasmania gets $2 for every dollar they put in. Northern Territory, $4.50. Victoria and New South Wales around $1 for every dollar they put in. We get 70 cents.
Well, what do you make of that? Pretty sour there he was. Really got into the things, but I'll tell you what, he's a very good speaker and knows the facts and the timings, and very confident in his delivery. Well, right now, the other battle that all the states are having is with the federal government over the immediate extra funding for health.
In COVID states like Victoria, the pressure on the hospital system is obvious. Ambulances ramping rather than dropping off patients.
Now that we've seen higher numbers for a week, we're starting to see those hospitalisations push up as well.
But even states keeping COVID at bay say there's financial strain.
Because when we do have a large outbreak of Delta in this state, there's going to be added pressure.
I'm not going to respond to shakedown politics in a pandemic.
The Prime Minister accusing Queensland of using the virus as cover.
To go down this point and say, well, you know, I'm going to hold the federal government to ransom and to seek to extort from them money on the basis of COVID.
I don't believe that, no, not at all.
And Queensland isn't alone. State and Territory health ministers writing to their federal counterpart, arguing the current funding model doesn't reflect the rapidly rising cost of infection control, testing and the capacity to respond to outbreaks.
Every single state and territory saying that our health system was under extensive pressure and demand.
Queensland has said publicly that their hospitals are prepared. If they have misled the public, that would be a matter of the most serious and grave concern.
Doctors insist the public hospital system was underfunded even before COVID struck.
We need to fix the long-term underinvestment that's been a reality for decades now.
Business as usual in hospital funding is not going to cut it in a once-in-a-century global pandemic.
Last week, the Queensland Premier suggested she wouldn't reopen her borders even at 80% full vaccination if her state didn't receive extra hospital funding. Anastasia Palaszczuk didn't repeat that ultimatum today, nor has it been echoed in the lockdown jurisdictions, Victoria, New South Wales and the ACT, where people are impatient for greater freedoms. Andrew Probyn, ABC News, Canberra.
So there we go, Queensland in the light once again. Of course, everyone needs their fair share of funding, but as per Scott Morrison, that do not use the coronavirus or the pandemic as a cover-up. Well, right now, let's go and take a look at the Daily India report for today, as we know that today also marks the beginning of Navaratri. So let's take a look at this clip.
Tied up with Australian Indian Radio to broadcast Mohishashur Mordini by Birendra Krishna Bhadra.
Don't forget to tune into Australian Indian Radio on 6th of October at 7 a.m., 12 noon and 4 p.m. Brisbane time. Join us to celebrate the auspicious occasion of Mohalaya.
We are Team Oikotan, Harmony of Generations.
And that presentation went to air at 7 a.m. today. It will go back on air at 12, and then of course it will go back on air at 4 p.m. So it is wonderful to see that taking place, and we'd like to continue this association with Oikoton in association with Australian Indian Radio presents Mahishasur Mardini by Virendra Krishna Bhadra. Right now, it's time to go to India with the Daily India Report.
Welcome to the Daily India Report that brings you glimpses of the changing India and the growing engagement of the Indian diaspora with India. In our first story, social media world dominated by Facebook, WhatsApp and Instagram went dark for 6 hours on the night of 4th October in India. It was a global outage, but tens of millions in India were hit hard. Facebook, Instagram and WhatsApp partially reconnected to the global internet after nearly 6 hours of remaining disconnected, throwing the social media world into a tizzy and making it dark. This paralysis hit India hard in terms of tens of millions of users who use it for communication, social, personal, professional and even business. India is perhaps the biggest market for Facebook and WhatsApp. The platforms went dark late evening in India around 9:30 p.m. Website monitoring group Down Detector said it was the largest such failure it had ever seen. Around midnight, some Facebook users began to regain partial access to the 3 apps. The outage was the second blow to the social media giant in as many days after a whistleblower accused the company of repeatedly prioritizing profit over clamping down on hate speech and misinformation. Shares of Facebook, which has nearly 2 billion daily active users, fell 4.9%, their biggest daily drop since last November, amid a broader sell-off in technology stocks. Security experts said the disruption could be the result of an internal mistake, though sabotage by an insider would be theoretically possible. Soon after the outage started, Facebook acknowledged users were having trouble accessing its apps, but did not provide any specifics about the nature of the problem or say how many users were affected by the outage. Several Facebook employees who declined to be named said that they believed that the outage was caused by an internal routing mistake to an internet domain that was compounded by the failures of internal communication tools and other resources that depend on that same domain in order to work. According to estimates from Ad Measurement and Standard Media Index, Facebook, which is the second largest digital advertising platform in the world, lost about $545,000 in US advertising revenue per hour during the outage. India demonstrated the first ever use in South Asia of an indigenous drone to deliver COVID-19 vaccine to far-flung and difficult terrain. Indian Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia has launched the Indian Council of Medical Research's drone response and outreach in Northeast to ensure last-mile delivery of vaccines. This delivery model will ensure that life-saving vaccines reach everyone. Launching the initiative, Mandavia said that for the first time a drone made in India was used in South Asia to transport COVID vaccine over an aerial distance of 15 kilometers in 12 to 15 minutes. The drone travelled from the Bishnupur District Hospital to Loktak Lake, Karang Island in Manipur State for use at the primary health centre. India has finally managed effective and safe vaccine administration in states and union territories, but vaccine delivery to tough and hard-to-reach terrains has been challenging. Mandavia said India is home to geographical diversities and drones can be used to deliver essentials to the last mile. The technology can prove a game changer in addressing the challenges in healthcare delivery, particularly health supplies in difficult areas. The Health Minister noted the immunization program for COVID-19 has already exceeded all expectations and hoped that the initiative will further help the government achieve the highest possible immunization coverage for COVID-19. iDrone has been designed to overcome the challenges by deploying unmanned aerial vehicles or drones to remote areas and hard-to-reach terrains. Currently, the drone-based delivery project has been granted permission for implementation in Manipur and Nagaland, besides the Union Territory of Andaman and Nicobar Island. Indian Foreign Secretary concludes a significant visit to Sri Lanka. India underlines its commitment to ask Sri Lanka government to protect the rights of Tamils, and Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa welcomes India building on Buddhist ties. Indian Foreign Secretary Harshvardhan Shringla met with delegations of Tamil leaders in Sri Lanka and emphasized India's commitment to protect the rights of Tamils by seeking Lanka government support for full implementation of the 13th Amendment to the Constitution, the early convening of provincial council elections, and achieving reconciliation. This was conveyed by Shringla to delegations of the Tamil National Alliance, Tamil Progressive Alliance, and Ceylon Workers' Congress, who met him separately during Shringla's going 4-day visit. India has consistently called on Lanka to fulfill its commitments to the Tamil community and preserve the island nation's character as a multi-ethnic and multi-religious society. The 13th Amendment passed in 1987 was an outcome of the July 29, 1987 accord between New Delhi and Colombo to resolve the ethnic conflict and civil war. It mandates a measure of power devolution to the provincial councils established to govern the island's 9 provinces. However, the power devolution has not made much headway. Meanwhile, Sri Lankan Prime Minister Mahinda Rajapaksa has expressed his appreciation for Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi's initiative to promote Buddhist ties. This was conveyed to the Indian Foreign Secretary Shringla, who called on Rajapaksa at his official residence in Colombo. During the meeting, the two delegations discussed a number of sectors of mutual cooperation, including the further strengthening of bilateral relations, ongoing projects, tourism and the promotion of Buddhist ties, said a press statement from the Sri Lankan Prime Minister's office. Last year, during the virtual bilateral summit between the two Prime Ministers, the Indian Prime Minister announced a $15 million grant for the promotion of Buddhist ties that aim to deepen people-to-people linkages between the two countries. Secretary Shringla said India is also looking forward to receiving the first pilgrim's flight from Sri Lanka to the Kushinagar airport after it was upgraded as an international airport. This was also a request made by Prime Minister Modi during the virtual summit last year. Another topic of discussion centered around the resumption of tourism. With the vaccine drives in both countries progressing well, Shringla spoke of the importance of resuming connectivity. India has been Sri Lanka's top source of tourists, with inbound tourism from India making up about 18% of total tourist arrivals in pre-COVID-19 years. Shringla also called on Finance Minister Basil Rajapaksa and assured support to uplift Sri Lanka's economy affected by the pandemic. He said Indian businessmen would be encouraged to explore opportunities in Sri Lanka. Over 800 Indian peacekeepers deployed with the United Nations in South Sudan are honored with a prestigious UN medal. Over 800 Indian peacekeepers serving in the UN mission in South Sudan have been honored with a prestigious UN medal for their service on completion of their deployment. UN mission in South Sudan said that 836 peacekeepers from India were recently honored with the United Nations Medal for, quote, their committed service to the cause of durable peace in the world's youngest nation, end quote. UNMISS Force Commander Lieutenant General Shailesh Tinaikar lauded the Indian battalion for successfully completing its tour of duty and also praised efforts by the Indian peacekeepers in rescuing and sheltering 32 humanitarian personnel in rank and ensuring their safe evacuation to Juba, the news report said. India's ambassador to South Sudan, Vishnu Sharma, who was the guest of honor at the medal parade, said the courage, commitment and sacrifice by the Indian peacekeepers for the cause of lasting peace in South Sudan had made the United Nations and India proud. UNMISS quoted Sharma saying that Indian veterinarians treated thousands of animals and built capacities among livestock owners on animal management, thereby boosting their economic stability. Colonel Neeraj Tiwari, commander of the Indian battalion, expressed hope that the Indian peacekeepers will be remembered for leaving a positive legacy of peace and capacity building, according to the news report. The acting head of the UNMISS field office in Malakal, Christian Mikala, voiced appreciation for the peacekeepers' consistent engagements with local communities. As another report emerges on the wealthy hiding their assets, the Indian Finance Ministry announces it will investigate the Pandora Papers. On Thursday, the international journalist has come out with what is claimed to be a 2.94 terabyte data trove that exposes the offshore secrets of wealthy elites from more than 200 countries and territories. The investigation is based on a leak of confidential records of 14 offshore service providers that give professional services to wealthy individuals and corporations seeking to incorporate shell companies, trusts, foundations, and other entities in low or no tax jurisdictions. Indian Finance Ministry informed that the government has taken note of these developments and the relevant investigative agencies would undertake an investigation in these cases and appropriate action would be taken in such cases as per law. Excitement surrounds the trailer release of the upcoming Tamil drama Udaan Pirappe. Excitement and euphoria surround the launch of the trailer of Tamil star Jyotika's landmark 50th film Udaan Pirappe. Amazon Prime Video along with 2D Entertainment launched the trailer of highly anticipated family drama amidst much fanfare. The film depicts an emotionally enriching tale of sibling love, family bonds and relationships. Written and directed by Era Saravanan, the film featuring an ensemble of actors like Jyotika, Sasi Kumar, Samuthira Kani, Suri and Kalyarasan will have a global release in Tamil and Telugu on October 14th on Amazon Prime Video across 240 countries and territories. Udaan Pirappe is the second DTS film from the recently announced multi-film collaboration between Jyotika Surya's 2D Entertainment and Prime Video service. That's all for this bulletin of Daily India Report. Thank you for watching.
And thank you very much, Ankita, for that news report on the Daily India Report. Very well presented. Well, right now, ladies and gentlemen, as we know that today we have some very special timings for some of the programs that are taking place. And one such program is the Mahishasur Mardani.
Hello everyone, Durga Puja is almost round the corner.
And this year, celebrate Durga Puja with us.
To double that up, we have tied up with Australian Indian Radio to broadcast Mahishasur Mardini by Birendra Krishna Bhadra.
Don't forget to tune into Australian Indian Radio on 6th of October at 7 am, 12 noon and 4 pm Brisbane time. Join us to celebrate the auspicious occasion of Mahalaya.
We are Team Oikotan, Harmony of Generations.
And yes, we are pleased to be associated with that. And the first stream went up at 7 a.m., the second stream at 12 noon, and the third stream at 4 p.m. Brisbane time. So listen live on www.indianradio.net.au, and then you can select the forum or select the platform of your choice to listen via, as you can listen via streamer, by TuneIn, by radio.co, many other platforms there to choose from. So ladies and gentlemen, that's about all we have time for in this segment, and of course we will be joining you back here at 10 with the real estate update with Usha Chandra and a weekly update for this week. So right now it's goodbye from us, and until the next program, it's been wonderful having your company. It's always good to see you all, and as we work through a few of the issues, we'd like to once again remind you of the special programs on air today.
Hello everyone, Durga Puja is almost round the corner.
And this year, celebrate Durga Puja with us.
To double that up, we have tied up with Australian Indian Radio to broadcast Mahishasur Mardini by Birendra Krishna Bhadra.
Don't forget to tune into Australian Indian Radio on 6th of October at 7 am, 12 noon and 4 pm Brisbane time. Join us to celebrate the auspicious occasion of Mahalaya.
We are Team Oikotan, Harmony of Generations.